So today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Krishna Dhan Prabhu to enlighten us on Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prabhuji, are you present on the call?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. So thank you so much Prabhuji for giving your valuable association to all of us. So now I would like to hand over the call to you Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4th, chapter number 9. Dhruva Maharaj returns home, text number 32. Matir vidushita devai patadbhi rasahishnubhi yo naradavachastathyam nagrahi shamasattamaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Since all the demigods who are situated in the higher planetary system will have to come down again, they are all envious of my being elevated to Vaikuntha Loka by devotional service. These intolerant demigods have dissipated my intelligence, and only for this reason could I not accept the genuine benediction of the instructions of sage Narada. Purport. As shown by many instances in the Vedic literature, when a person undergoes severe austerities, the demigods become very much perturbed because they are always afraid of losing their posts as the predominating deities of the heavenly planets. It is known to them that their position in the higher planetary system is impermanent, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, Kshine Punyamartya Lokam Vishanti. It is said in the Gita that after exhausting the results of their past activities, all the demigods who are inhabitants of the higher planetary system have to come back again to this earth. It is a fact that demigods control the different activities of the limbs of our bodies. Actually, we are not free even in moving our eyelids. Everything is controlled by them. Dhruva Maharaj's conclusion is that these demigods, being envious of his superior position in devotional service, conspired against him to pollute his intelligence, and thus, although he was the disciple of a great Vaishnava, Narada Muni, he could not accept Narada's valid instructions. Now Dhruva Maharaj regretted very much that he had neglected these instructions. Narada Muni had asked him, "Why should you bother about insult or adoration from your stepmother?" He of course said to Dhruva Maharaj that since Dhruva was only a child, what did he have to do with such insult or adoration? But Dhruva Maharaj was determined to achieve the benediction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore Narada advised him to go back home for the time being, and in mature time he could try to practice devotional service. Dhruva Maharaj regretted that he had rejected the advice of Narada Muni to go back home for time being and try and mature. Dhruva Maharaj regretted that he had rejected the advice of Narada Muni and was adamant in asking him for something perishable, namely revenge against his stepmother for her insult and possession of the kingdom of his father. Dhruva Maharaj regretted very much that he could not take seriously the instruction of his spiritual master and that his consciousness was therefore contaminated. Still, the Lord is so merciful that due to the Dhruva's execution of devotional service, he offered Dhruva the ultimate Vaishnava goal. Omajnanatimirandasya jnananjanashalakaya chakshuronmilitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namah Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4th, chapter number 9. Dhruva Maharaj returns home, text number 32. I'll read the translation again. Since all the demigods who are situated in the higher planetary system will have to come down again, they're all envious of my being elevated to the Vaikuntha Loka by devotion service. These intolerant demigods have dissipated my intelligence, and only for this reason could I not accept the genuine benediction of the instructions of sage Narada. So we are reading the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj returning back home. We saw how Dhruva Maharaj had offered very wonderful and amazing prayers to the Lord from verse number 6 to 17th. And then after that, Lord was pleased by his prayers, and then he offered benedictions to the Dhruva Maharaj. From text 18th to 26, we have all the discussion what Lord had with Dhruva. And then after that, immediately after the Lord returns back to his abode, Maitreya Muni is continuing the narration, and 27th to 29 verses, he mentions about the displeasure of Dhruva Maharaj. And then Vidura immediately inquires to Maitreya Muni about displeasure of Dhruva, which we had in text number 28. Vidura inquires that, my dear Brahmana, the abode of the Lord is very difficult to attain. It can be attained only by the pure devotional service, which alone pleases the most affectionate, merciful Lord. Dhruva Maharaj achieved this position even in one life, and he was very wise and conscientious. Why then was he not very pleased? So that was the inquiry of Dhruva, that in spite of obtaining the lotus feet of the Lord, which are very difficult to obtain, and that too he obtained in such a short duration, and therefore he calls Dhruva as very wise. But then also, what was the cause of his displeasure in spite of having darshan of the Lord, in spite of having his... Then also why he was not satisfied at his heart. So then Maitreya Muni starts answering this inquiry of Vidura from 29th onwards, and then here we see Dhruva's lamentation actually is mentioned from verse number 30 to 35. The 6 verses talks about lamentation of Dhruva. So why Dhruva was lamenting? Actually, because Lord, while having discussion with Dhruva, Lord offering benediction to Dhruva, the Lord said in 23rd verse, sometime in the future your brother Uttama will be hunting in the forest, and while absorbed in hunting, he will be killed. Your stepmother Suruchi, being maddened upon the death of a son, will go in search of him out in the forest, but she will be devoured by the forest fire. So actually what we see that Dhruva Maharaj had the ill intention, rather than what we can say, the passionate desire that obtaining the abode superior to his great grandfather as well, and because of the revengeful attitude towards his stepmother, that was the, what we can say, the initiating cause of Dhruva to perform austerity and please the Lord. And here we see the same things became the reason for his lamentation, in spite of having the darshan of the Lord, in spite of being attained the Lord. So we can see here that these two things, actually we'll come to these two things little later. Let us see what Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport at the very outset, in the beginning, he says that, as shown by many instances in the Vedic literature, when a person undergoes severe austerities, the demigods become very much perturbed, because they are always afraid of losing their posts as the predominating deities of the heavenly planets. So these demigods are actually essentially posts which a living entity can acquire after gaining required qualification. And Srila Prabhupada mentions from Bhagavad Gita as well, Kshine Punya Marte Lokam Vishanti. If when we go there, we enjoy the abode there, then our punya becomes kshina, they're exhausted, and then one has to come back again. And therefore, these demigods are always concerned about their posts. And specifically, we have many incidences from Vedic literatures that Indra becoming angry or Indra becoming insecure about his post, and because of that he wants to create disturbance in all those. So here in Dhruva Maharaj had this desire that I wanted some possession greater than that of Lord Brahma even, and he had that revengeful attitude towards his stepmother and brother. So because of these two malicious desires, Dhruva is now here condemning the demigods that because they contaminated my intelligence, actually, if I would have no, if I would have listened to the instructions given by Narada, that and Srila Prabhupada mentions in elaborately in his purport, that Narada Muni asked Dhruva to go back home initially, and this is not your age. We have already seen that in the previous chapter. Before Dhruva Maharaj goes for performing austerity, he meets Narada, and Narada tells that it is not your age to perform austerity. Go back home. Why are you maintaining this revengeful attitude? Go back home. And he says that I should have listened to these instructions by Narada Muni at that time only, not maintaining the revengeful attitude. And in spite of Narada Muni's instruction, I still went ahead and performed the austerity for getting this superior post and getting the revenge towards my stepmother. So he's here blaming the demigods for this, that they contaminated my intelligence, and because of that I had to undergo all this tribulation of meeting the Lord. And even after meeting the Lord, I asked for, actually he didn't ask for anything material when the Lord was there in front, because he was purified by the transcendental touch of the Lord. He was purified. But still we saw that Lord reciprocated with the desire of the Dhruva Maharaj, and not only his wordings. Dhruva Maharaj had some intent before performing the austerity, so Lord fulfilled that intent as well. So Dhruva Maharaj is saying that these demigods contaminated my intelligence, and Srila Prabhupada mentions that there are many instances in Vedic literature that demigods come and create disturbance in the austerities. Just to give some examples, like we have Vishwamitra Muni, who was performing a severe austerity to become Brahmarshi in competition with Vasishtha. And then Indra thought that maybe he wants to become, or he wants to take the post of Indra. And then he sent Menaka, created disturbance in the austerity. Then Rambha also came. So there are many incidences. So in Srimad Bhagavatam itself, in this fourth canto only, we had Indra coming and stealing the horse from the sacrifice of King Pruthu, who was about to become a Shatakratu, gaining the title of performing the 100 sacrifices. Then he felt insecure, Indra, and then he disguised himself as a sage, and then he came at the arena where where Prithu Maharaj and the other sages were performing the sacrifice, and then he steals the horse. And this happened many a times. The incident was repeated. Then again he was caught. Then again he steals. So basically, this insecurity about their posts. And we also hear in Srimad Bhagavatam that Indra wanting to create disturbance in the austerities of Nar Narayan Rishi and sending some apsaras there again. And we know that they were so self-satisfied that from their thighs they created a apsara, Urvashi, and they presented to Indra. So insecurity about one's post might create envy for the other person who wants to make progress. So this is the nature what we see from the activities of the demigods like Indra, sometimes in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures as well. And then next, Srila Prabhupada mentions actually, this is a very, very important lesson for we sadhakas. Srila Prabhupada, repeats, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned these things twice in his purpose, if you have noticed. Dhruva Maharaj regretted that he had rejected the advice of Narada Muni and was adamant in asking him for something perishable, namely revenge against his stepmother for her insult and possession of a kingdom of his father. So now we see that these two things actually, which are basically the cause of displeasure, or we can say the cause of lamentation and repentance in case of Dhruva, they may also become the cause of repentance for a practicing sadhaka. So what are these two things? The first one is revengeful attitude. In the words of Srila Prabhupada, he namely wanted the revenge against the stepmother for her insult, and second is the possession of a kingdom of his father. So any material position and possessions, aspiring for that. So when we aspire for these two things, a revengeful attitude and the aspiration to have some possession, then these two things hampers our devotional progress as well. So what is this revenge attitude, to take revenge? Because this make us repent later, that why did I do this? Like Dhruva Maharaj is repenting here, I should not have gone there only. I should have listened to the instructions given by Narada Muni and went back home. So this revengeful attitude, we also see this attitude of revenge in the case of Drona and Drupada. We know this story from Mahabharata, that Drona and Drupad were good friends in the Gurukul, and though they were coming from the different backgrounds, Drona was coming from the Brahminical background, while Drupad was coming from the Kshatriya background. And Drona was a kind of more intelligent person who often helped Drupad in the Gurukul while learning. And both of them, the time came for these two friends to part at the school. Drupad promised Drona that anytime you need help, you can willingly come to me. And we know that later Drona married and had a son, Ashwathama. But still he was struggling to give his family a decent life. And it's believed that one day when children were making fun of his son, when he drank the rice mixed with water, thinking this as milk, he felt humiliated and then remembered Drupada's offer to help him. He went to meet him. However, Drupada was not ready. Drupada said that friendship can be had with only equals. He not only turned away Drona but mocked at him, saying that there cannot be any friendship between a royal king and a poor Brahmana. So Drona felt much humiliated and he thought of taking revenge on Drupada, but knew that he himself would not be able to take that. And with the help of Krupacharya and his wife Krupi, he was appointed as a tutor for Pandavas and Kauravas at Hastinapur. And this Drona was still keeping this revenge in his heart. And when the time for Kauravas and Pandavas came to offer Guru Dakshina to Dronacharya, who had become Acharya by that time. Then he asked Duryodhana said that uh, Drona asked this Guru Dakshina from Kauravas and Pandavas that go and bring Drupad here alive. Capture him and bring him. And Duryodhana said, okay, I'll go. But Duryodhana and Karna, they all went, but they were all defeated by Drupada's army. Then Arjuna was sent. So Drona then sends Arjuna, and then Arjuna was was very skillful in archery. And then Arjuna goes, defeats Drupada, captures him alive, and brings him in front of Drona. So as Drupada had said that friendship can be only amongst equals. So Drona said that now I have captured you, your whole kingdom belongs to me. Now we'll become equal now. I'll give you half the kingdom and I'll take half. So half was given to Drupada and half was with Dronacharya, where the Ashwatthama was made king. And then Drupad could not digest. Drupad was also keeping this attitude of revenge in his heart then. And then we know that Drupada arranged a yagya seeking children who would avenge this. And we know how then Drupadi and Drushtadhyumna was born ultimately to kill Drona at Kurukshetra. And he became the cause of death of Drona. So both these parties we saw, what we learn from this story, what we are seeing over here is that if we keep this attitude of taking a revenge from someone at some point of time, then this will not allow our mind to remain in peace. Rather, it will make our mind into pieces, not being able to focus, not being able to concentrate on anything, not be able to think of anything else rather than the person who has hurt us. If we have this attitude of taking revenge, so we need to develop the attitude of let go. What is this revenge? It is basically inability to forgive. So there are a few things actually which one should remember while practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness is not an abstract concept which cannot be practiced. Forgiveness is a very practical concept, and even our scriptures teach us these concepts, so practical examples that how one can practice this forgiveness. So while practicing forgiveness, one need to pay attention to these three things. So I'll mention one by one. So the first thing while practicing forgiveness and not maintaining the revengeful attitude is look beyond the situation. Many a times we are put into a situation, we get so entrapped in the situation that we forget to look beyond, and while being entrapped in the situation, we develop this attitude of taking a revenge from someone who might have said something, who might have done something ill to us. And the very best example of developing this ability to forgive and looking beyond the situation is the story from Ramayana. We all know how Marich had came to kidnap Sita and the discussion actually that Marich had appeared. Ravana wanted to kidnap Sita, and then he was taking the help of Maricha. Maricha appeared in the form of golden deer, and Sita wanted that golden deer, and Rama followed that golden deer deep into the forest. And when Rama went, and Maricha, because he was a demon, in the voice of Rama, he cried out loudly, "Sita, help! Lakshman, please help!" And the voice was repeating. And when Ram had already asked and warned Lakshman to take care of Sita. So Sita was perplexed by hearing the sound, and she said that this seems like a Ram's voice, but he has never called for help like this in the forest. But little did they know that the golden deer was Maricha demon in disguise, whom Ram was chasing behind. So Sita asks to Lakshman, "Oh dear Lakshmana, go and please save. You must help your brother." But Lakshman didn't respond much. He knew Rama would be fine. He had just defeated thousands of demons in the forest without breaking a sweat. And what could a deer do harm to Rama? But Sita panicked. It's your duty to go. Just the thought of one's beloved being in some part of danger can bring an outpouring emotion within the heart of the lover. Lakshman said, gazing into the darkness, "My brother can protect himself, but you cannot. My duty is to protect you. Rama would never forgive me if I left you here, vulnerable to the lurks and serpents in the darkness." Many of us are familiar to this story. When Lakshmana was standing like a guard there, Sita started arguing with Lakshmana at that point of time. "We are in the middle of nowhere. I order you, I command you, I beg you to go and save your brother. I have a feeling that he is in real danger." They say pulling rank is the last refuge in an argument. But people say anything when they are distressed. Again the sound came from the distance. "Help me! Someone! Please help me! Sita! Lakshman!" Sita screamed, "That is your brother calling you for help. How can you do nothing?" And she took out a Brahmastra. "I see. Now that Ram is out of picture, you think you can have me for yourself to enjoy. You want the kingdom all to yourself." Now Sita knew that was not true, and that Lakshman would have done anything for Rama. But she wanted a reaction. Lakshmana hung his head in sorrow, fixing his gaze upon the sand by his feet. What an accusation for him to face from someone he had dedicated his whole life in service to. His heart was crushed. Again Sita pleaded him, "Please go and save your brother." Lakshman made sure that his sister-in-law was safe and ran into the forest in pursuit of Rama. This episode is actually particularly powerful in the context of forgiveness. Sita had pierced and caused injury to Lakshman's heart with the sorrows of her harsh words because his character was assassinated. In our lives, many times we find we are cast as both Sita and Lakshman. Sometimes we are the ones stringing the bow, and at the other times we are the ones under the fire. But it's important to note an unbiased perspective. What Sita said was factually wrong, and it was insensitive of her to have made such accusations against her brother-in-law. However, if we look past the situation, that is, if we look past what was said, we might be able to understand why it was said. Sita was going through a personal turmoil. Her emotions were flying about as she speculated the kind of pain her beloved husband might have been going through. We have all been in situations where our intellect is clouded by our emotions. At those times, we say anything and everything for our own peace of mind. Although a moment of patience in a moment of anger can save us from thousands of moments of regret in the future, usually when we are suffering intensely, we cannot help but let our mind run amok. For our own growth, we should maintain equipoise in these testing times. When someone hurts us, we should try to look beyond the situation and think why this person is saying this, how they might be suffering, what this a person is feeling that is making him speak such a thing. Is there some deeper chaos that is occurring in the life of this person who is saying these words to me? It's not about supporting the hurtful comments the other party is making to us. It is about seeing what they are going through and this is called as empathy, which is the most essential component of forgiveness. So this is one thing actually which we saw, that look beyond the situation. And then later, nowhere in the Ramayana we see that Lakshman maintained the grudge against Sita. In fact, when Sita was taken away by Ravana, and then Ram and in fact Lakshmana got chastisement from Ram as well. When he went there, Ram was intact, Ram was safe, nothing had happened to Rama. Rama said, "Oh, Lakshman," he chastised Lakshmana, "why did you leave Sita alone and came here?" And he got chastisement for more. Sita actually doubted the character of Lakshmana, and Ram doubted competence of Lakshmana. So both his character and competence were assassinated. He was tormented, but never uttered a single word. He forgave both of them. Nowhere there is mention that. In fact, then when the duo Ram and Lakshman they were in search of Mother Sita, Lakshman happily went with Ram. Actually, he consoled Ram as well on the journey, because Ram was now feeling the turmoil of separation from Mother Sita, and Lakshman didn't say that Sita had said so many hurting words to me and I will not come with you. Both of you go in hell. No, he didn't utter a single word. He cooperated with Ram and then went ahead in the search of Mother Sita. So this is the great character of Lakshman, actually, who never kept any kind of revenge. And even Mother Sita also didn't utter a single word about these incidents in the future. So this is actually what we can learn from these incidents. The first and the foremost quality that one need to look beyond the situation if one wants to develop this attitude of forgiveness in one's heart. The second thing which we learn is the second most important aspect if we want to practice forgiveness is one need to separate the episode from the person. This is not to say that we should tolerate abuse or not do the sensible thing to correct someone when they are wrong. But in order to practice forgiveness, we have to learn to separate the incident from the person. Disconnecting the person from the problem starts with the language we use to describe the incident. So there can be three ways with which we can describe the problem. First is saying that it is my problem. This causes us to feel guilty, and over time one may develop an inferiority complex. We may begin to think that we are not tough enough to deal with situations, and thus we may become morose over the issues when we say, I am the problem. The second is when you say, it is your problem, this causes us to feel angry. We see Dhruva's situation same way Dhruva is going through. First he said, your problem, now he's saying it's my problem. I should have gone back, I should have done it. And he is playing the blame game as well. Maybe the demigods are the cause of this. So the second is you are the problem. This make you feel angry. Now we start pointing index finger at someone else. It's your problem, not mine. And so blaming the other person only leads to a spiral of anger. So the first is my problem, second is your problem. But the third is, it is the problem. Isolating, or we can say distancing the problem and the person and focusing on the problem. It is the problem. Separate the problem from the person involved. Not only does this separation empower us to forgive the person, it also helps us to effectively deal with the problem. So this is the second thing which we need to focus on to develop this forgiveness. Separate the episode from the person. And then the third is having the understanding of the higher purpose. So while practicing forgiveness, actually, we need to understand that what's the higher purpose. The higher purpose of serving Guru, the higher purpose of keeping Krishna in the center always, the higher purpose of seeing the presence of living entities, the presence of Paramatma in everyone's heart. So when we have this higher purpose, the pleasure of the Lord, like we say, Prithu Maharaj, he abandoned the 100 sacrifice. Okay, Lord, if it pleases you, I'll give this up and I'll forgive Indra. So he forgave Indra actually. He didn't kept the revenge in his heart that he has stolen my, and because of him I was unable to complete my 100 sacrifice. He didn't keep the revenge in his heart. For the higher purpose of pleasure of the Lord, he could forgive Indra and at the same time not complete the 100 sacrifice as well. So when we have this higher purpose in our heart, then we will be able to practice this forgiveness. So in regards to giving up this attitude of revenge, it can be counteracted by developing forgiveness, and in that we saw three things developing forgiveness. The first is to look beyond the situation, second is to separate the episode from the person, and third is having some higher purpose. When we have these three, then we'll be able to practice forgiveness to some extent. So we were discussing mainly discussing the two things which hinders the progress on the path of devotional service of a sadhaka. The one thing which we discussed, which Srila Prabhupada had also mentioned, that revenge against his stepmother for her insult. And the second thing which creates hindrance in the progress of a sadhaka is, in Prabhupada's words, possession of a kingdom of his father, a greater than father. So an aspiration for some imperishable things also may make us lose taste in bhakti, and sometimes it may separate us from the Lord as well. Attraction to material possessions and positions. The same story, Sita, we saw. She got attracted to a golden deer. She wanted to possess something. I want that. And with that attitude, the word comes in Ramayana, Abhiramo. She was attracted and she felt it so beautiful. Abhiram, Abhirama, Ram is source of pleasure. So she was seeing that golden deer is Abhirama. Abhirama is something greater than that of Lord. Abhirama. So there are upasargas, or we can say the suffixes. No? In English language we have suffix. So in Sanskrit these suffix they are called as upasargas. Upasargena dhatvartho baladanyatra niyate. So these upasargas actually they may enhance the meaning of the word, or they may take the meaning of the word at some different place only. Baladanyatra niyate. So Ram is the source of pleasure. Abhiram is something more pleasurable than Lord Ram. So Sita, when she looked at the dazzling beauty of the golden deer, she was attracted attracted by it, and she said, Abhirama, it's more beautiful than Ram, and that was the starting point of her separation from Lord Ram. So when we also want to possess something not in connection with the Supreme Lord, then like the golden deer become the cause of separation of, not the golden deer, but the Mother Sita's desire to want that golden deer for her own sake. That was the original cause of separation of Sita from Rama. So we need to be very careful about these possessions and positions. Like Dhruva Maharaj wanted a position greater than that of his own father. So when we have these aspirations for these possessions and positions, they are very dangerous. And therefore Rupa Goswami says, Anya Bhilashta Shunyam. Shunyam is zero. We should not have any other desire than to please the Lord. Because if we keep those desires in our heart, then it might happen that Lord may fulfill those desires. It happened. Same thing happened with Dhruva. If you read Srimad Bhagavatam very carefully, Dhruva did not ask Lord for the kingdom greater than that of his Lord, than that of his father. All these texts which I shared, that from verse number 6 to 17 are the prayers offered by Lord. Not a single time he said that I want a kingdom greater than that of my father. Nowhere he said that, do something ill to Suruchi and my brother Uttama. But as we saw, in the text 23, Lord said that, in the future, Uttama will die when he'll go for hunting, and your Suruchi mother will also be devoured by the forest fire when she will go in search of him. Dhruva fulfilled all those desires. So a sadhaka needs to be very careful about his or her desires in his heart, because Lord not only sees our words, but Lord also sees what is beyond the words, which are lingering in our hearts. And these are called as weeds actually. They might grow. So we need to cut off those weeds. And therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while offering prayers in this fourth prayer, Shikshastaka, he says, Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhaktir ahaitukittvai. He says, Na dhanam. So if you look here very carefully, the Lord is rejecting all the positions and possessions of this material world, and rather aspire for something. Even birth after birth, I want your devotion, my Lord. This is the prayer of the Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when we develop this attitude, and we can pray to the Lord sincerely that one day, let this prayer become my own prayer. And that is actually realization. The realizations mean that when the supreme reality becomes my own reality, that is realization. When these prayers become my own prayers, actually I mean it. Not only I say it, but I mean it. Not only I mean it, I also live by it. We need to show by our actions also to the Lord. And when the Lord will see our actions, He will see our intention that genuinely we want devotional service at His lotus feet, then He will fulfill that spiritual desire as well. And even if one material desire remains, Rupa Goswami didn't say, Anya Bilashita Parsalam or Anya Bilashita. He says Shunyam. Shunya. And therefore one needs to be very careful about these material desires lingering in our heart. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written a separate book on this, that how to how these material desires actually they take one astray from devotional service. And even this material attitude of being revengeful, taking revenge and not being able to forgive, this also makes our practice of bhakti difficult. So Dhruva Maharaj, who is now lamenting about these two, we need to take care that we also don't have to lament about this in the future, that I was keeping this revengeful attitude and I was attached to these material things in my life. So we can learn. We have so many things through the scriptures actually. This is the basic difference between Upanishads and Puranas actually. Upanishads, they give siddhantas, they give principles, and Puranas, they emphasize on the same principles but through a narrative. They tell us stories. So these stories of Dhruva, and specifically from this thought of Dhruva. Dhruva is not speaking actually. This Dhruva is thinking. Maitreya Muni is presenting us while answering the question raised by Vidura, what Dhruva thought. Because Dhruva has not yet reached home. Lord has departed, while Dhruva is just on his path back to kingdom. Next chapter it will describe how he was well received and all these things in detail. But he was returning and he was thinking, he was contemplating on this. So this contemplation also should become our contemplation, and so that we don't have to repent in the future. Therefore, Chanakya Pandit has given a sutra wherein he says that take a decisions in this life or live your life in such a way that later on we don't have to repent for the decisions which we make, or later on repent for our actions in the past life. So Dhruva is repenting over here for these two things, keeping the revengeful attitude and having the aspiration to get a possession and position greater than that of his father. So we also can learn from this and start to practice some kind of forgiveness in our life, not keeping the grudge against anyone, and simultaneously being detached, what Krishna calls in Bhagavad Gita as anishkama karma, being detached to possessions and offering whatever we have in the service of the Lord. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for the very insightful class. It was actually something that was very, very nice to practice. Prabhu, I had a question here. When we are talking about Dhruva Maharaj feeling bad for what he did, actually later, first of all, there was a thought in his mind. He didn't even ask it verbally. There was a thought in his mind, and the Lord fulfilled both the desires that he had in his mind. One is taking revenge. The other one is having a great kingdom. So both of this was given by the Lord, understanding his mind, and later he felt remorseful. I mean, he felt bad that he did ask that. So the point, and also we were talking, and you were also mentioning about forgiveness and not blaming others. Like, for example, in this verse we see he's blaming the demigods. So my question here is like multifolded. My one question is that if he had realized, or if he was feeling repentful for what he did, then understanding that the Lord had already granted the boon that his mother Suruchi, his stepmother Suruchi, would die like that, a person knowing that would, if he is really feeling bad about what his thoughts were, wouldn't he have gone and really spoken to solve the problem, in the sense like to prevent his mother from getting this very severe punishment? That is, or did he do that, or he just accepted? And because it appears that later when he goes back, he seems to be very cordial with his stepmother. He doesn't seem to have any problem. So that means technically he has forgiven his mother in his heart, right?
Actually, very good question. Actually, when he goes back, it will come in the next chapter, next chapter as well. When he goes back, he didn't now had any grudge against Suruchi, because when Uttama goes, actually Dhruva also helps. Initially that Dhruva also laments why he has gone, and Dhruva also felt morose when his brother departed actually, and some of the things were beyond his control, like death, which is everyone, which is beyond control of everyone. Ultimately, any one point of time, Suruchi, Uttanpad, his own mother, father, everyone had to die. So what Lord said, Lord, yeah, he fulfilled his desires which were there in his heart as well. And we also have the higher understanding that Dhruva, he became a great devotee. He became a very great devotee. Rather, he is the unique person in the world who has such a planet itself by his name, which doesn't vanish even at the time of Pralaya. Such a great person. So Suruchi, actually, there was also a fault of Suruchi, which was due. She was due for punishment for that, because she has pierced the heart of Dhruva, who wants to become a devotee and was innocent child actually. So this is also a lesson for us to learn that we should not be the cause of distress for someone, and specifically who is a devotee, because it might be a Vaishnava offense, a severe offense. So in that sense, we can learn that Suruchi had to suffer that. Lord fulfilled. Lord not only fulfilled Dhruva's desire. Lord is like such a thing, we say, ek tir do shikar. So he fulfilled the desire of the Dhruva as well, and simultaneously he punished Suruchi as well for her fault of apparently seeing Vaishnava Prad.
Those Suruchi, I mean, like, my question then here is, she didn't verbally go and ask for forgiveness, so she was not really forgiven by the Lord, because in so many other cases, when a person goes and asks verbally forgiveness or really repents and asks for forgiveness for the mistakes they have done to Vaishnavas, the Lord says only that Vaishnava can forgive you, right? So then it means that once you ask for forgiveness, you are supposed to be absolved of that sin, right? Or it's not you can really be forgiven at all.
True. Like same we see in the case of Amrish and Durvasa as well. So when Durvasa comes back and asks for forgiveness, and Amrish Maharaj forgives, and then he was absolved of his Vaishnava Aparadh kind of.
But here it appears Suruchi was really forgiven, right?
Suruchi was really forgiven, yeah.
So she was forgiven? I mean, like because she died finally in the forest fire, right? Because of the Lord's will.
No, see, death is not the only thing which, because the death is of the body which we see. Simultaneously, because she had some connection with the Dhruva. In spite of being a stepmother, she had some connection. She must have got some destination after that. Obviously, about Suniti is mentioned. She got a plane before Dhruva.
Yeah.
Which is very very apparent. But nothing is mentioned about Suruchi. In fact, in the next chapter, horrible death of both Uttama and Suruchi is mentioned. Nothing is mentioned about their destinations, but obviously, if they are in connection, Lord Narsimhadev, when he had appeared, he mentioned to Prahlada that Tri Saptabhi Pita Puta. Forget about Hiranyakashipu's deliverance, who was hostile to the practice of Prahlad. So same is Suruchi was hostile, but we can see that Lord's promise that Tri Saptabhi Pita, even forget about Hiranyakashipu, 3 generations. Or 3 Saptabhi means 7 into 3. So 21 generations are saved. So if 21 generations Lord is going to consider, why not the current generation? So Suruchi must have got some good destination in the future, which is not mentioned in the Bhagavatam, but some other Puranas might have talked about it. But apparently it's not there. But we can learn from this other story that Prahlad, inference. Through the inference we can learn that she must have got a good destination later. Just by seeing the death of the person, we can't comment anything. Even if you talk about Ramayana, Jatayu had to die at the hands of Ravana, but he got liberation. And on the other hand, Maricha died. Maricha in the form of golden deer died at the hands of Rama, but he got hell. So how the death of the person occurs and where the person will go, they are like mutually exclusive things. So it might be that Suruchi's death might have been in a horrible way, but where she had gone, obviously we can infer that as being a divine connection with the Dhruva, who is a pure devotee of the Lord. We say Nutyanti Pitara, even the Pitrus, they start dancing when they see someone practicing devotional service. So Dhruva was his son in one way. So she must have got a good destination and she would have been forgiven by the Lord.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu. That consoles. Thank you. Thank you so much for your answer.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji,
Hare
in
Krishna.
connection with the same question, I just had like one query. So, in this all like about Dhruva's story and his mother's, stepmother's actions, where does karma, how does karma come plays role over here? Like whatever she did, was that karma, like the death which she had, was it the result of the karma, or like I'm just concerned with how the karma will play a role in this everything in this event.
Yeah, karma plays a role, na? We reap as you sow. So Dhruva's desires were there, and his desires. Then, based on those desires, he had those actions, going and performing austerity. So his desires were fulfilled. So karma means basically whatever we do. Like Suruchi also had reaction to her karma, that is the harsh words which she spoke to Dhruva. In fact, Uttanpad also had to suffer the reaction of that, being silent. So when, if we see the previous incident narrative, when Suruchi was insulting Dhruva, Uttanpad remained silent and he didn't utter a single word, which he was supposed to. He also had to go through a reaction of that, neglect. So everyone got the reaction. Uttanpad got the reaction of being neglectful. Suruchi got the reaction of being uttering harshful words. Suniti got a reaction of guiding Dhruva to the proper place. And Dhruva also got a reaction that he got a abode which no one can destroy. So, yes, it's obviously a pastime of the Lord, but it's also, there's the both aspects. One is called as human aspect and another is called as divine aspect. So when we need to learn the scriptures from both the aspects, human as well as divine.
So Prabhu, like so if the those who have committed the offense, though they have been forgiven by the Vaishnava against whom they have done the aparad, then still then the karma, they will have to deal with the karma
Karma of what?
of having bad deeds, like what the stepmother did with Prahlad. Sorry, with Dhruv Maharaj.
Once they are forgiven, once they are forgiven, then need not. Like when Amrish Maharaj forgave, rather we see that if you remember from Chaitanya Charitamrita the incidents of beating of Haridas Thakur at the 22 marketplaces, and later on then Mahaprakash Leela, Mahaprabhu says to Haridas that these brutal people, they were about to kill you, they're beating you, and I was about to come there and kill them, but because you was praying for them that, oh Lord, please don't do any harm to them because they don't know what they are doing. So he was showing compassion towards those who were beating him. So Lord even didn't go there to kill them. Rather, he made his body into a cover and covered Haridas Thakur. And then later on he was showing that, these are the marks on my back, you can see. I did protect you. So if a devotee forgives, then obviously the person don't have to suffer much. But if the person doesn't forgive, then the consequences one has to bear. And therefore, in Ambrish's pastime, Lord asks when Durvasa Muni was running here and there, Brahmalok, Shivlok, and then later on up to Vishnulok, then Lord said that I'm my devotee's property. Whatever they do, I'm always like a sold out servant. And you go and beg forgiveness from them, then only you'll be able to protect. And like Sachi Mata and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't even give love to Mother Shachi apparently because she had committed some offense to Advaita Acharya. And she had to then beg forgiveness actually, directly or indirectly, and then get rid of that offense. So once the offense, when the offense is nullified by the tool of or the weapon of forgiveness, then obviously later on there is no reaction. But if we don't beg forgive or when the person is not forgiven, then we have to bear the consequences of that.
Okay, Prabhuji. So in Sachi Mata's case, after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not give her the love, after that she begged for forgiveness and then she was given, right?
Yeah, she was given.
So in this case, we should know that we have to personally go and beg for forgiveness at the Vaishnava, or like in Sachi Mata's case, because it was just mind, in the mind she had said that, right?
Yeah, mind she has said, yeah.
So if
therefore Vaishnava Aparadha also has...
Yeah, go ahead,
yes.
please. Yeah, please explain.
No, the same thing, what you are saying. She was just thinking. So Vaishnava Aparadha is also at various levels, Aparadha at the level of mind, at the level of speech, at the level of body. So this was at the level of mind. And Suruchita Aparadha was at the level of speech. And Ambarish's level, Durvasa's offense was at the level of bodily action. He wanted to kill. So whatever at the level of body, at the level of mind, or at the level of speech, the offense is offense.
So is it like we have to personally go and beg for forgiveness, or some can be we can just beg for forgiveness in the mind, or how does it work, Prabhu?
Forgiveness is actually Lord. The Lord didn't ask Durvasa to you beg forgiveness in the mind. He asked him to go and personally seek the forgiveness. So therefore, one need to, if we feel that we have offended someone, then it's always better. Rather, actually, it deepens our relationships as well. When you go and personally beg forgiveness from someone, then actually those persons who are close to Lord, they forgive. And once forgiven, then we don't have any grudge in the heart, and we can practice peacefully. And it is also like a blow to our false ego, begging for forgiveness.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hari Bol. Hari Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Danat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for a very nice class. Prabhuji, I have one question regarding forgiveness. You were telling in so many great personalities like Dronacharya, or so many personalities, they have a gods in the heart, Prabhu. Still, it's very difficult for them to forgive. And how is possible in the age of Kali Yuga people, they also practice the forgiveness? We can see in the Vishwamitra's case, and then you were giving the example.
When you read scriptures have both the extreme examples of positivity as well as negativity. Like Vishwamitra, we may say, even Indra cannot get rid of envy, or even Vishwamitra became victim to lust. So these are like the examples of caution for us. And we also have the extreme examples of positivity. Like I mentioned that Haridas Thakur forgiving those who were killing him. So we sometimes go into these two extremes that to justify our conditionings, that in one case we say that even the great personality can fall prey to these, therefore who am I in front of them? And second is Haridas Thakur, he is such a great person, I am not Haridas Thakur. So we don't have to compare ourselves with always this elite person. We can derive inspiration from these examples, and with faith in the process of bhakti, start practicing those things in our day-to-day life. So, okay, yeah, I learned from Haridas Thakur, yeah, one need to forgive. Okay, how can I practice forgiveness in my life? Okay, if someone has said some ill to me, okay, then I already mentioned that there are three tools which we can utilize. The first one I explained about the look beyond the situation. It means try to understand, empathize with the person. Second is trying to separate the episode from the person, and third is for some higher purpose, which were actually the practical tips for a sadhaka to follow in a day-to-day life. We don't have to always say that the scriptural example. There are the examples are of positivity and some examples are of extreme negativity. So the examples are there. Scriptures are replete with these examples, and we need to take inspiration from them and emulate the lessons and practice those principles.
Yes, Prabhu.
Does this satisfy you?
Yes. Prabhu, can you repeat? I actually missed 3 points. That is higher purpose, and you were telling to before.
The first one was looking beyond the situation, and wherein I mentioned the story of Lakshmana and Sita and Ram. So look beyond the situation. Lakshmana could understand why Sita was saying these words. He didn't just focus on the words, but why, what made her speak that. Second is separating the episode from the person, wherein we saw the 3 questions. Sometimes 3 things, 3 words which we might use, 3 types of words. First is saying I am the problem, then you feel guilty. Second is you say you are the problem, then you feel angry. But it is the problem, situation. Not you, not me, but the situation. So trying to separate the episode from the person. And third is higher purpose. As I mentioned, Pruthu being able to forgive Indra just for the pleasure of the Lord.
Yes. Thank you so much, Prabhu. It was very nice class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So another program I had to leave. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Let's share obeisances to Prabhuji and all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubheva patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta koti Vaishnava vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. His Grace Krishna Dana Prabhu ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.